They said to me, Neil, can't you do something with the cross? I look out my window at night and I don't see it anymore. And I used to pray to it, or I used to look for it as a comfort. Or I'd like to look at it right before I jumped into bed and went to sleep, Because you can see Holy Land from so many different parts of the city.
Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am Jen and this is Fundie Fridays, and here on my channel I talk about different aspects of Christian fundamentalism, conservative American culture, deconstruction, a lot of drag queen references, and self-deprecating humor. What I'm trying to say is we have fun on this channel. If you haven't been following me on social media, I am recovering from COVID. And I'm really hot right now, even though the air conditioning is on. So I have a fan right over here, right by my face. So if you hear a fan noise, that's why. I'm just suffering and trying my best to bring you content in a timely manner. Okay. You gonna complain some more in my comment section. And thank you to all the Genonites who have been helping me try and get Trixie Mattel's attention. If you didn't know, Girl Defined recently did a video all about, the sinful world of drag queens, and Trixie tweeted something about wanting to make a video about it, and I have just been screaming, crying, throwing up. Just, please, I want nothing more in the entire world than to talk to Trixie about Girl Defined. I just think that I'm uniquely suited to give the 411 on their particular branch of Christian fundamentalist influencer bullshit and their problematic family history, and I think I could do it in a really funny way. So, what did Phil Vischer say? Would you be okay if your dream died? I think that's like a lesson that God's trying to teach me. I want this Trixie thing too much, so I can't have it. So, you know what? Maybe I have some growing to do, but please. Do you understand? Do you understand what we can have? Yeah, maybe I'm not over it. Anyway, and as for the Dunking Darling abortion fundraiser, I need to give you guys an update. Not very much money was raised for the month of August, which is fine, because you guys raised so much the earlier months. It's not a problem. So I just took what was raised, which was 188 for the month of August. So I just multiplied that by the 9 organizations and gave everybody, I think I rounded it up. So I gave 9 organizations $200. Something like that. And once again, those organizations that I'm raising the money for would be the National Network of Abortion Funds, Midwest Access Coalition, Bridget Alliance, Fund Texas Choice, ARC Southeast, AFIA Center, Indigenous Women Rising, Holler Health Justice, and the Mississippi Reproductive Freedom Fund. That's my August update for the abortion fundraiser. With all of that being said, let's dive in. What makes this place so special? Because if you visit it right now, it's just a bunch of abandoned ruins, offensive graffiti, overgrown trees and shrubs, really windy hill in a residential area. I mean, me and James almost didn't even find the place because we thought we were lost. There's no signs for it, and it's, at the end of somebody's driveway, almost. And it really seemed like there was hardly any room for any cars, so I don't know what people were doing in the 70s, but it used to be poppin', apparently. Holy Land USA was the brainchild, fever dream, that's it. It was the fever dream of a man named John Baptist Greco. And despite his middle name literally being Baptist, Greco was a devout Roman Catholic. He was born March 27th, 1895, and his parents were Italian immigrants. Greco spent much of his childhood frolicking in the sunshine of the beautiful Torrelli dei Lombardi, Avellino, in southern Italy. Greco returned to the States in the 1900s and then set his sights on being a priest, followed by briefly attending a Catholic university in Washington, D.C., before dropping out due to health concerns. Greco ended up finishing school in 1926 at Yale, of all places, and became a practicing lawyer, who's also known to take cases and work for free, as long as it wasn't a divorce case. So, he still was very Catholic. In 1934, he founded a group called the Catholic Campaigners for Christ, or CCC, and this group would attempt to spread the message of the Bible at a grassroots level, delivering sermons in the street and building nativity scenes out of scrap materials around Christmas time. And by the way, this is 1930s scrap, so who knows? Maybe that baby Jesus in the nativity scene was made of asbestos and lead paint. In 1953, Greco purchased 17 acres of land for his project that would become Holy Land, and he got it at such a cheap price because the land was known to be undesirable and its position high up on this hill that made walking and transporting materials very difficult. Greco was still a practicing lawyer at this time, so he could only work on Holy Land weeknights after work and on the weekends with the Campaigners for Christ. They helped build Holy Land with their bare hands. They would carry buckets of concrete up this hill both ways. And I know the hill is steep because I walked it, and they pretty much could only use items that were donated and recycled. Old appliances, bathtubs, cinder blocks, mannequins, just regular garbage they were able to transform into God-honoring sculptures. After several years of hard work with his Campaigners for Christ, Greco opened the park, which was known as Bethlehem Village at the time, in December of 1958. The best article that I have found about Holy Land, the entire history of it, is from a website called sometimesInteresting.com. Sometimes-interesting. I couldn't find an author on this particular article, but they did an amazing job, and I have taken a lot of information from there. They definitely have the most details of all the websites. The number of displays in Bethlehem Village continued to grow, eventually leaving the realm of Bethlehem-related messages and stories. To better describe his growing number of scenes, Greco changed the park's name to Bible Land. This, however, changed again when Greco mused over the idea of adding a large illuminated mountainside sign, similar to the iconic sign of Hollywood Hills, to beckon I-84 motorists. Thus, Holy Land, USA was born. I really would have liked to see that Holy Land sign, but like a lot of the famous aspects of this park, it was destroyed by vandals. So thanks a lot, guys. So let me tell you about this hill and this gigantic cross because they're very iconic and important to talk about. Apparently, Greco chose Pine Hill because the terrain is very much in our favor. It lends itself easily to the original. Everything in the Bible took place on the heights. The laws of Moses came on the heights. Christ preached his sermon on the mount and he died on a mountain. All these things took place on a hill like we have here. This hill is very winding and hard to get up. I would know because I guess I wasn't expecting that it would be this way. So I wore sandals when we went up there, and I fell several times. James had to walk behind me and make sure that like I didn't fall down the hill. And eventually I just took my sandals off and just walked in my socks. I don't know what the rationale was. I guess I wanted the stability and the grit of a sock, but I didn't want to get like broken glass into my foot. But like the sandal was pushing my foot out of the sandal with each step. It was very confusing. So I just walked up there with my socks on. Anyways, I walked all the way up this hill to the cross, not unlike Jesus. And when I got to the top, I saw there was a whole literal paved driveway that I could have took. But you know what? I wanted the experience. Okay? But just so you know, you can take the paved path. You don't have to go through the treacherous winding staircase made of rock. Besides the giant peace cross that had been tore down and redone several times, which we will get to, there were quite a few other interesting things to do and look at Holy Land, including a Garden of Eden replica, an exhibit of the Holy Shroud of Turin, yellow painted golden calves, and a replica 200-foot long catacombs. Later in the 60s and 70s, there were hour-long tour exhibitions that included a replica of Jerusalem, the Crucifixion, Gethsemane, the Temptations of Christ, Mount Zion, and the West Wall. The park also featured a chapel, library, gift shop, an information center, and in the early 1970s, the Holy Land Convent was added. Directly behind the main gates was Manger Square, featuring the nativity scene. All in all, Holy Land consisted of more than 200 miniature buildings and displays. and perhaps the best part of it all, admission was free. Holy Land was a popular place for Catholic tourists and, I guess, bored New Englanders. Holy Land, as hokey and camp as it was, Holy Land was an important part of the culture of that area, and it has been featured in music videos, movies, and even this comedy sketch from the 80s.
Hey, Billy, is that Reverend Ridgelow on the level? Is he really giving up his hit TV show to open up the world's greatest Christian theme park?
Holy Land, USA, come and wash your sins away. We're having fun with the #1 son at Holy Land, USA.
Ride the holy roller coaster. Follow the Lord through mini Jerusalem. Battle the serpent that tempted Eve. Be born again at the Red Sea log jam. Stone the secular humanists. Go to hell and back, upside down. Let Jesus be your safety bar.
It's for you. Holy Land, USA. Ain't no better way to pray. You can do as you please if you'll get down on your knees. At Holy Land, US, holy in the US, Holy Land, USA. Amen.
And by the way, there were no rides at Holy Land. And this sketch that I just showed you featured scenes from Coney Island. So don't think that you're going to actually have fun at Holy Land. Holy Land is a very serious place. As I briefly mentioned earlier, Holy Land was featured in the movie Wanda and also in a Flaming Lips music video, which, I mean, this is the only screenshot I could get. The whole video is so damn trippy, you couldn't even really tell, but I knew what to look for. But perhaps the most important music video that was ever filmed at the flared base of the Holy Land Cross is this one called Real Talk, featuring a rapper known as Pro-Choice.
I got these n***s talking me like I ain't do them shows, like I ain't fuck the hoes, like I ain't smoke the shit they backed up to rack up. They got the game all jacked up, my flow bracked up and racked out, man. She am kicked up, I don't say shh, cause my main bitch got a main pitch, and that's my side dish. I'll vibe my flow as I grow through the time and the echoes. When I'm holding down my GD niggas, you know I lock it down, cause they ain't taking no fuck up coming round. But you ain't even in the set, you ain't holding one down. So why would I bless you with my lyrical wonder crown? Take your bitch and hold it down like pound chicken, break it down. So that nigga fly as fuck.
Wow. He sure said the N-word a lot. And he name-dropped the Gangster Disciples. You know he must be cool. Dirty water all day, every damn day. Keep reppin' for the town. Poor guy. Crack is a hell of a drug. Disgrace for Holy Land Cross to be in such a curse-filled song. God forgive them. So by 1972, our boy Greco was getting up there in age. He was born in the 1890s, remember? So the Archdiocese of Hartford, Connecticut, assigned 2 nuns from the religious teachers Filippini, that can't be right, in 1972 to assist Greco with the operation of Holy Land. So basically, Holy Land was really hard to maintain. It was uphill both ways. It had all kinds of landscaping that had to be taken care of. An old man and 2 other old nuns were trying to run this place, so it didn't last much longer. After that, in the late 70s, even more troubles begat Holy Land. Not only did construction of a new highway displaced the catacombs exhibit, but also a series of fires swept through the hill the Holy Land sat on. This fire destroyed bushes, trees, and many of the important displays. Mr. Greco said, "The worst of it was the firemen. They came in with axes and knocked everything down." After the fires and firefighters destroyed much of Holy Land, vandals came in and finished the job. By 1977, they destroyed the library, the gift shop, and caved in the roof of the nativity scene. people were spray painting Nazi symbols and other not so nice things. Like, this is private property that these nuns are nice enough to let us go rummage around in, and this is how we repay them, by destroying things and leaving hate symbols.
New this morning, Waterbury police have arrested 3 people accused of spray painting graffiti on some of the monuments on Holy Land. 23-year-old Heniel Centeno and 21-year-old Yanili Meha were arrested, along with another suspect who's underage. Police say they received several tips identifying the group after releasing pictures yesterday. They are all charged with trespassing and criminal mischief, and the 2 men are being held on bond. The juvenile was released on a promise to appear.
The park closed for good in 1984, and 2 years later, Greco passed away. Greco was so beloved by his community that he was made an honorary citizen of Bethlehem and a Knight of St. Gregory by Pope Pius XII. A nun by the name of Sister Lucille noted how interesting it was that after being turned away from the church based on his health, Greco was able to touch more people on his own than he might ever have as a priest. Don't make any jokes about that phrasing there. In his will, Greco left Holy Land to the nuns that took care of him in his final years, and allegedly gave them several $1 million to take care of the place, to which they were apparently robbed. I am a little curious where that money came from. I guess if he was a lawyer, but he didn't charge for Holy Land. Sister Lucille claims the nuns were robbed of the millions left by John Greco. The money was pouring in, and then the man we hired to help us manage the finances, a lay person, absconded with all the funds. We have been hurt many times, and nobody knows that sort of thing took place here. That man had helped rebuild another church, and we thought he could do the same thing for us, but something went wrong with him. I don't know. Man, there needs to be like a Netflix documentary about this, because there's a lot of unanswered questions. After Holy Land closed, several proposals were floated to renovate and redevelop the site. The most ambitious came in the late 1980s from Hartford Archbishop John Whelan, who proposed an elaborate religious theme park with walks through full Bible scenes. Instead of using old bricks and plaster, the displays will be built on a greater scale and feature proper construction. The bid failed to secure financing and ultimately failed. In 1988, the Catholic Campaigners for Christ announced it would tear down Holy Land's chapel and fill in the remains of the 200-foot-long catacombs. Citing reasons that included insurance and safety costs, the group sent a bulldozer. In response, the Committee to Preserve Holy Land was established, which organized a petition that amassed 1,000 signatures to leave the site intact. The group organized demonstrations, started a Save Holy Land quilt, and one member even vowed to chain himself and a 12-foot cross to the park's front gate. In response to the protests, campaigners official Jerry Ramo said, "We are not destroying Holy Land, just a small part, the chapel and the catacombs." Yet another attempt at a Holy Land revival came in 2003, when former Waterbury city official Frank Davino organized hundreds of people and arranged for close to $1 million in financing as part of a 5-year plan to renovate Holy Land, USA. The group was stonewalled by the nuns, who had become jaded by the actions of the scores of trespassers and vandals. Concerned with threats of further degradation, liability, and modification of Greco's original displays, the nuns rebuffed all efforts by the public to assist with rebuilding Holy Land and replacing the Peace Cross. One Holy Land enthusiast recalls an encounter with the nuns. "We asked them if we could put the manger scene together for Christmas and invite the public up to see our progress. Their response was, 'What do you think this is? Disneyland?'" That's actually pretty funny. In 2010, a young girl named Chloe Ottoman was brutally abused and murdered at the base of the Holy Land cross. It was very, very sick and disturbing what happened to her, and I won't go into detail, but her murderer is in prison right now and is only facing 55 years.
It's amazing to think it's been a year since this happened. You remember how profound an impact this had on so many people here in the Waterbury community, obviously, when a teenager dies. Well, today, Francisco Cruz, learning his fate, walked into a Waterbury Superior courtroom wearing an orange jumpsuit. Now, usually in situations like this, Chris, as you well know, the accused here gets the chance to say something to the family. Cruz said nothing, did not say a word, did not apologize to any of Chloe's family, any of Chloe's friends. Outside of court, Derek Ottman, who was Chloe's father, spoke to the press. He had brought a Father's Day card that Chloe had given him a year ago. He said, obviously, Father's Days now, birthdays, all holidays are very difficult, but for the most part, satisfied with the 55 years that Cruz is facing in jail.
No number or amount of years, really makes me happy. Nothing really makes me happy about the situation, but it's over and it's done with, and we have to kind of figure out how to live the rest of our lives.
The judge telling Cruz today that where you wake up is where you will die, in jail. We'll have more coming up tonight at 5 and 6. For now, though, we are live in Waterbury. I'm Jamie Muro, News 8.
And this murder was the last straw for the nuns, who decided that after that, they wanted to sell the place. They couldn't stand living there anymore. So after this, several groups considered buying Holy Land, which proved difficult due to the nuns' concerns about further change to the property, the undesirable rocky terrain, and the location, which is equal parts cumbersome hill and residential parking atrocity. And of course, the ever-changing price tag associated with repairs and upkeep to this place. It's an unconventional piece of real estate, and you kind of have to be emotionally attached to it to care. Like, you're going to sink a lot of money, and it's also really weird. It's not like you can put a hotel up there or something, it's the perfect person to buy it would have to care about the history of Holy Land and what it means to the community. So the mayor bought it.
It's not a city-run project. You gotta be very clear about that. Even though I'm the mayor, completely separate from the city. Fritz and I got together with some very generous friends of ours who have been supporters of other initiatives that we have been involved with over the years. And everyone loved the idea. And the more we spoke of it, the more people got excited about it. And of course, Joe Pisani was the very first person who called and said, I understand there's a movement to purchase Holy Land. And we said, yes. And he said, I want to design and build the cross.
After the mayor purchased Holy Land, he started a nonprofit group called the Friends of Holy Land USA, which was him and a couple of business associates. They got together with a bunch of volunteers, cleaned up the place, and even finessed a free brand new steel cross, among some other things. So it's really starting to look up for Holy Land.
We had to do a tremendous amount of work, and that's probably the untold story. Because of the significance of the size of the new cross. So it's 22 tons. So we had to get some enormous rigging equipment up there, cranes. In order to do that, we had to build a new road, and we had to take down a lot of trees so that we could widen the road so that we could get the heavy equipment up there to support the cross. So, amazing amount of work done on the property by volunteers who took down these very, very large trees. I'll tell you what, an amazing effort by an awful lot of people.
The amount of volunteers, the amount of people that jumped into this project with all their heart and spirit, I would be here all day trying to remember all the people. We wanted this to be larger than the other crosses that stood on top of Pine Hill. We also wanted it to not go dark as the last cross did.
They held all kinds of fundraisers, and they've done a couple special events there, like they've done masses, and they shoot fireworks off there for various events. Did I mention that you can pay to have a brick engraved at the bottom of the cross? Because I feel like I should mention that. You get 6 lines for $250. Do you think I should get one? Sound off in the comments. And while Holy Land is not open to the public per se, you are allowed to go explore during the day. It says so on the signs outside the park and on the website under the FAQ. It says you can. Why can you only explore during the day? I mean, you could hurt yourself out there at night. There's nobody watching you, and of course there were heinous crimes committed there at night. It's a liability. Like I said, they're really trustworthy with people being allowed to go up there and mess with it because there's graffiti and people steal stuff. And yeah, I mean, we're really lucky that it's even open to this point. One of the major projects that the Friends of Holy Land USA took care of was getting the Peace Cross up and running again and lit for special events in the Catholic calendar. Holy Land has had 4 crosses. The original neon one was 32 feet tall, and it was built in 1956. Then that one needed to be rebuilt and tore down. The second one was built in 1968. It was 56 feet across, made from stainless steel, and it was the longest running cross before the next one. In 2008, they had a third cross built. It was only 50 feet, and it is the only one that was not lit up. Nobody liked this cross. And then finally, the newest one that is currently up, it is 16 tons, 52 feet tall. It was built in 2013, and it is filled with 5,000 LED lights. Over 1,000 people came to see the inaugural lighting of the new cross, and they had a party. It looked like it was a really emotional event.
I think angels are the thoughts of God, and I think they are at work constantly in the world.
You know, I believe in angels as well. And I think there's a church full of them here today.
1969.
Your faith was strong, but you needed proof.
I came back from a few tours in Vietnam. I flew into Bradley Airport. My father picked me up and we came into Waterbury. I saw the cross.
She tied you.
I was home.
Kitchen chair. She broke your throne.
The fact that it's up again in the glory that it was is so important to the people of this city. The people who did this know who they are. And I truly believe that you listen to the angels.
And this cross is pretty important. I'm sure I don't have to explain to you why a cross would be important to Christianity, but besides that, it's really important to fans of Holy Land. I'm hesitant to say that it's important to the entire town of Waterbury because, not everybody is Christian. I'm sure that if you were another religion or you were an atheist or you have bad memories of Holy Land, it would be really annoying to see this gaudy, bright cross in the middle of the night. For example, the parents of Chloe Ottoman. I really doubt they want to see that stupid cross every night. But besides that, a lot of people do enjoy it. And Neil O'Leary said about the cross, "From my perspective, the Peace Cross is the identifier of this blue-collar, middle-class city that was built from immigrants from all over the world, of all different backgrounds and colors and religions." Holy Land is a place that was made from recycled materials and was free to the public, built by volunteers and taken care of by tiny old nuns. There's not much to compare to the major Christian theme parks like Heritage USA and Orlando's Holy Land or the Creation Museum. Nobody had their savings drained by Jim Baker. There wasn't rides and water parks and timeshares. It was just a little roadside attraction made by an Italian immigrant turned pro bono lawyer. As it is now, the Holy Land site sits as an eerie anachronism in both space and time. It's so out of place for the neighborhood that you could legitimately make a wrong turn and miss the whole thing. The workmanship, exhibitions, and sentiments expressed throughout the attraction are very evocative of the park's late 1950s opening. Wandering across the site while knowing the history of it all just feels wrong. You walk along well-worn convenience paths and sharply inclined brick stairs to pass lovingly built replicas of holy Christian sites now covered in hateful graffiti. You bask in the overwhelming silence coming from an era once bustling with joy and activity. You turn to the right, stare at the largest cross you've ever seen, and remember the horror that happened at its base in July 2010. No amount of reassurance to the contrary will make it feel less criminal to be in the space, and I can't thank the current owners enough for being so friendly with us religion buffs in preserving and opening the area to exploration. It's inconvenient, dangerous, and somewhat creepy, and I think a lot of videos would sadly just stop there. But after seeing it for myself, I just can't leave it like that. Holy Land is also an homage to what dedicated folks can accomplish accomplish when they work together for the greater good and for everything else associated with it. That alone is worth celebrating and preserving. This thing was built and staffed exclusively with volunteer labor since its inception more than 6 decades ago. It's hard to understand exactly what that means unless you actually visit it for yourself, but once you walk along those hills and remember that people gave their time and money just for the privilege to carry buckets of concrete up those same paths, you start to see just how much work the people of Waterbury put into it. Furthermore, the sheer number of insane stories surrounding Holy Land and the various attempts to restore and rejuvenate it over the years are a great story all on their own. Even though it's open to the public and can be found easily on Google Maps, it feels like a special hidden moment in time when you're there. So I do ask that if you ever find yourself visiting the Holy Land site, please treat it with the utmost respect. It has already been through enough bullshit for 10 lifetimes. It's one of the last authentic roadside oddities we have left in this country, and a lot of good people have worked hard and taken big risks to make sure that we can still enjoy it. Oh, hope you enjoyed this episode. Not gonna lie, it's been kind of hard for me. I just got hit with like another wave of sickness in the middle of this fucking thing. I'm incredibly anxious. I had to take several breaks. I've been wanting to cry. I don't know what's going on with me. I truly do hope you enjoyed this episode because I worked hard on it despite it being physically difficult. I'm so sorry that it's been a long time since I've made a real episode. Somebody commented that on my community post, and it's been bothering me all week. I know, like, just turn it off and don't look at it or whatever, but like, shit really does affect me and it hurt my feelings. So please be nice to each other and please be nice to me. Next week is a James episode, and then I am redoing my Gwen Shamblin video. So if you want to watch the old one, go ahead and do it soon because I am going to remove it from YouTube. Yeah. Drink some water. Wear a mask. Don't fucking travel. I will see you guys next week. Wait. I'll see you guys eventually. I don't know. Bye-bye.
But since that dark time, there have been brighter days for Holy Land. A nonprofit purchased this space back in 2013, and starting just this month, the public has been welcomed back to this property during daylight hours to walk around and see what's still here.
The driveways were repaved last year, a new website was launched last week, and an outdoor mountaintop mass is planned here next month.
I'd like to be approaching what it was when I was younger as a reflection point. We'll see if we get there.
Hidden in plain sight for years, but there are hopes and prayers this place will soon rise from ruin. In Waterbury, I'm Dan Corcoran, NBC Connecticut News.